Now we've talked about Null, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time to talk about Anti Venom. Actually, Anti Venom is probably the one I'm interested in the most coming next month. Now, we did a little bit in MCM where we talked about the champion, showed some stuff for the deep dive. Let's have a look at the full spotlight now that we can indeed do that. But first of all, it's great to have a science version of a symbiote or a venom of some description. I can't remember off the top of my head whether or not there is one within the science line, but still, it's good to see there's one there. And as well, there's a lot of things going on for this champion that, as I said, interest me. The building of passive furies, which again, I love that. And as well, there's so many things like debuffs that the champion does, which can be handy for the likes of Cavalier monthly quests, right the way through to just general grind questing and such like. So yeah, very excited about this. So some of the things that are great to note at the moment about this champion is immunity to incinerate and poison. Great option if you want to have a champion that can take on, well, you know, incinerate champions, but also those that run suicide masteries. Having a poison immunity is great. So that's liquid courage dealt with. So also during the opponent's special attacks, Anti Venom gains 40% defensive combat rate per debuff on the opponent. Handy because a lot of the times the champion's throwing debuffs. So that again is great of taking that defensive combat rate down and it's just kind of like dealing with enemies, which I think that's the disorient debuff. So yep, genetic memory. When the fight starts, Anti Venom inflicts an indefinite Clintar debuff, or if the debuff is removed by any means, it comes back after 15 seconds. I suppose that's handy against the likes of Crossbones or any other champion. I believe this champion as well has a ability to interact with no class disadvantage being felt, which is going to be of benefit depending again on what champion you're going up against or anything that shrugs off debuffs. If the opponent is suffering from a Clintar debuff, every 10 hits in the combo meter from either champion, Anti Venom inflicts a selected genetic memory debuff from the list below. The maximum number of genetic memory debuffs is 4, which is Spectre, reduces the opponent's regeneration rate by 16.66%. Good. Disorient, Decelerate, so that's lowers evade and unstoppable abilities accuracy by 33%. And then second medium attacks change the selected genetic memory debuff to the next debuff in the list of if the defender has a 50% chance to change the selection when inflicting genetic memory debuff. This is all very handy. I think it's definitely like there's elements of utility here that I am all about and I love about Anti Venom, especially because look, at the end of the day, it says if the opponent is suffering from Clintar debuff every 10 hits on the combo meter, for each champion, Anti Venom inflicts a selected genetic memory debuff from the list. Right, so the maximum is 4, so essentially you're doing 4 times whatever it is right here. So that's good. If it's going to be disorient, reduced down, well, that's not a huge amount there. If you kind of do 4 times 12.5, it's not a huge amount of number, but at least it's a number or an number. Also, ability accuracy for evade and unstoppable, which is kind of that slow debuff meets kind of like a new type of spin on it. So that's definitely going to keep you close to that 99. Oh no, it's going to take you over the 100% marker for taking down evade and unstoppable abilities. So yeah, that's going to be really effective, especially for the likes of, is it Mighty Charge? It can work. Going to be some things I've got to try out with this, but it looks very promising and very fun. Now, what about taking on those pesky Spider-Verse champions? Because a lot of these ones that are symbiotes seem to be able to suppress things when it comes to the pesky spiders. Like Venom has something. I think there's something with Red Goblin. And I think there's some other ones as well that are able to suppress things like evade or kind of like the way things interact. So yeah, we need them. Oh, and we get them. Thank God. So Clintar debuffs reduce physical vulnerability by 525 and gain additional properties based on Anti Venom's opponent. Spider-Verse heroes reduce the ability accuracy of evade effects by 100%. Fantastic. That's good for interaction. Mystic champions reduce ability accuracy of unblockable by 65%. Excuse me, hiccups. At 30 hits in the combo meter from either champion increases to 100%. Good. And definitely class advantage is going to help. Inflict a staggered debuff that lasts 10 seconds, staggered opponents. Yay, that's good. Do you know, having a champion that is science, I think there's like one or two others. Who's it? Mr. Fantastic definitely does that, and I think there's one other as well. But yeah, just having that is just it's brilliant. It's brilliant to have a option that, you know, doesn't have to be Mystic in order to get that stagger. So yeah, positive news right there. And special attacks, personal passives are paused during specials. Now, from what I gather, the way that you play the champion is SP3 first, then it's SP1, then it's SP2, in order to and then further SP2s to maximize Fury passives. And let's just figure out. I really rate the champion's kind of like abilities. It's well written. It doesn't seem overly complex and complicated, which the problem is a lot of Marvel Contest of Champions seem to have this problem. But, you know, good news is good news right here. Now for the special attacks. So as it says right here, and the reason that you're going to go for the SP3 first is you inflict a rupture debuff, dealing 1,547.7 physical damage over 15 seconds, but also gain a non-stacking evolved mutation passive, increasing the number of genetic memory debuffs by 4 and increasing fury potency and duration by 25% for 25 seconds. The max stack from an individual debuff is 4. So this is, as I said here, it's like special 3 special 3 plays a key role in the loop. It allows Anti Venom to inflict more debuffs and consequently gain more stacks of fury. Very important as well, because the SB2 on activation consumes genetic memory debuffs on the opponent, granting a fury passive per genetic memory consumed, gaining 1,658.25 attack rating for 25 seconds. So that's why we do the rotation, is putting on these genetic memory debuffs in order to then consume them and then put on the Fury passive and an attack rating increase. It means you're able to maximize your damage and SP2 rotate. So the reason SP1's after SP3 is, if not already active, gain an accelerated mutation passive, causing Anti Venom to inflict additional genetic memory debuff for 15 seconds. Again, as we said, more genetic memory debuff, the more potential you have to rotate around. And then accelerate mutation refreshes the evolved mutation passive. If accelerated mutation is active, all hits deal a burst of 884.4 physical damage. But this is the crucial thing, and why we do the SP1 of the SP3. First hit inflicts a petrified debuff, reducing the potency of their power gain regeneration effect by 40% for 20 seconds. So you can keep up the pressure and the pain in order to go from that SP3 to SP1 to then finally finishing off on the SP2 to complete the loop, and all that damage is there whilst the enemy is not doing much, we'd hope, to build up, because that's the thing, you're really stifled if the enemy is building any kind of like power, because you have to wait around for that special attack to be launched by the enemy. So it's not always kind of like sunshine and rainbows and all that stuff. Awakened ability. When attacked, Anti Venom gains a passive regeneration stack, recovers. That's disappointing that the champ has to be awakened to get that, because I think that's going to be helpful, especially if you're running Suicide Masteries. Taken from non-critical hits, interrupted, debuffs purified. Personal debuff potency increased by 10% for every 10 hits in the combo meter. Either champion non-personal debuffs are increased by 5% every 10 hits. Okay, fine. At 50 hits, the combo meter with the accelerated mutation passive active, Anti Venom only needs 1 application of each debuff, most of its utility. Yeah, so again, it's just building. It was all about building up your debuff potency and such like. So what else? Well, there's some synergies. Anti Venom, he gets accuracy of their buffs reduced by 50%. Opponents have ability accuracy. Accuracy of their buffs reduced by 50%. Venom Carnage regenerates 50% max health when knocking out a Spider-Verse hero. Okay, cool. If there's a Spider-Verse quest, then yeah, it's going to be helpful. Apart from that, it's like, how will that apply? It's good for a variant. Maybe. What else? With Spider-Man 2099, Doc Ock. Well, Venom for the first 10 seconds of the fight cannot gain buffs. Opponent cannot get buffs. That's somewhat helpful. Spider-Man 2099 on the side of the fight inflicts a wither debuff on the opponent. Handy. That's pretty good. That's pretty fun. Hand Doc Ock, when dealing damage per breakthrough, removes their heavy attack 25% chance. Okay, this all seems to be helpful stuff. Maybe later with Agent Venom. Anti Venom inflicts a genetic memory debuff, deals burst of 40% modified attack and physical damage. Nice. Okay, cool. And there's some others as well. Yeah, Anti Venom does interest me a bit. I think really for the Suicide Mastery side of things, the regeneration elements to the signature ability, I find it a bit annoying because that could be more scalable, and it kind of feels like hard done by those at Suicide Masteries will have to go, right, if I get the champion, I'm going to have to awaken it and also maybe a high signature in order to really feel like the regeneration elements to, say, survivability and sustainability when you're recoiling, throwing special attacks, which, let's face it, throwing an SP3, SP2, SP1 and an SP2 in order to maximize your Fury passive potency, and well, not potency but the volume, essentially you're like, well, that I'm kind of tied to doing that, so therefore I'm going to be recoiling, so therefore I need to then build back my regen, and that is going to have to be it. So yeah, bit disappointed in that, but apart from that, loads of debuffs that the champion does seems fun. Building the Fury passives for non-Suicide Mastery users seems to be a thing. But seems to be good enough. I'm personally interested in Anti Venom. I think he's quite cool. Like the stagger, like the way he's able to suppress evade abilities, and the way that the debuffs work. What's your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.